My grandfather, Arthur Bellamy, passed away last month. His death wasn't unexpected. He was 92, frail, and had been declining for years. Still, something about it felt wrong. He hadn't died in a hospital or a nursing home. He died alone in his house, the old family estate he had refused to leave, no matter how much we begged. The same house my father refused to talk about. The same house my mother refused to set foot in. And yet, when the will was read, guess who was left in charge of sorting through his things? Me. I wasn't particularly close to my grandfather. He was strict, strange, a man of unshakable routines. When I was a kid, he used to tell me stories about our ancestors, about how we came from a long line of watchers. I never knew what that meant. And now, standing in the dusty, creaking house, surrounded by his things, I was about to find out. Because there, on his old mahogany desk, sat a shoebox full of cassette tapes, and taped to the top of the box was a handwritten note. To my grandson, Michael, listen to these in order, follow the rules, do not break them. I flipped the note over. On the back, written in the same shaky handwriting, were the rules. Rules for listening to my tapes. 1. Start with tape number 1 and do not skip ahead. 2. You must listen at exactly 11 p.m. Not before, not after. 3. Do not listen to more than one tape per night. 4. Do not stop the tape before it finishes. Let it play. 5. If you hear whispering in the background, ignore it. Do not acknowledge it. 6. If the tape stops suddenly, but the reel is still moving, do not speak. Just wait. 7. Under no circumstances should you ever listen to tape number 7. I read the list 3 times. Then I looked at the tapes. 7 of them, labeled in my grandfather's handwriting. I should have walked away. I should have left the house, called him a state lawyer, told them to deal with this. But I didn't. Because, against my better judgment, I wanted to know. So that night, at exactly 11 p.m., I pressed play on tape number 1, and that was the moment I sealed my fate. The old cassette player clicked as the tape began to spin. A soft hiss of static filled the room, crackling over the speakers like an old radio trying to find a station. Then, a voice. My grandfather's voice. Grainy, aged, but steady.
Michael, if you're listening to this, then I'm dead. And if you followed the first rule, it's exactly 11 p.m. That means you're already on the path. There's no turning back now.
His voice lacked emotion, no warmth, no sadness, just a simple, cold statement of fact.
This family has responsibilities, Michael. Duties passed down for generations. You don't know it yet, but you've been watching your whole life, even if you didn't realize it.
The static warped slightly, and for a second, just a second, I thought I heard something beneath his words. A whisper, software indistinct, somewhere in the background. I clenched my jaw and forced myself to ignore it.
You may have felt it before, that creeping sensation. That feeling in your gut when you walk into a dark room. When you wake up at night and swear someone's standing in the corner. That isn't your imagination, Michael. That's them. They've always been there. They're watching, waiting. And it's our job to make sure they don't get too close.
My pulse thundered in my ears.
By playing this tape, you've acknowledged them. And now, they know you can hear me.
The air shifted. I felt it suddenly. A pressure, a weight in the room that hadn't been there before. The whispering on the tape grew louder, like something was moving closer to the microphone. I swallowed hard, gripping the arms of the chair.
I need you to do something. Right now. Don't turn around. No matter what you do, don't look behind you until this tape ends.
My breath caught in my throat. My body locked up, because the moment he said it, I felt it. A presence, right behind me, standing just outside my peripheral vision, not breathing, not moving, but watching. The whispering sound on the tape wasn't coming from the speakers anymore. It was in the room. I squeezed my eyes shut, gripping the chair so hard my knuckles went white. The tape continued.
They want you to notice them. That's how they work. The moment you acknowledge them, they get stronger. If you turn around, they'll know you see them. And they'll never leave.
The whispering grew, shifting, crawling along the walls. Something brushed my shoulder. My lungs screamed for air. I wasn't sure if I was breathing. The tape crackled again.
Just hold on, Michael. The tape is almost over. If you followed the rules, they'll leave when it stops.
I kept my eyes shut, kept my body frozen. The whispering rose to a crescendo, like dozens of voices speaking at once. Some sobbing, some laughing, some chanting in languages I didn't understand. Then, click. The tape stopped. Silence. The room was empty again. I didn't move, didn't breathe. After what felt like an eternity, I finally forced myself to open my eyes. The chair creaked as I slowly turned my head. Nothing. But the air was still thick, charged with something unseen. I glanced at the cassette player. The tape had ejected itself, and sitting beside it, where there had been nothing before, was tape number 2. The house was quiet again. But it wasn't the kind of silence that brought relief. It was the kind that watched. I sat there for what felt like forever, staring at tape number 2, my body still coiled with tension, my hands slick with sweat. I should have walked away, but I didn't. Because deep down, I already knew. I wasn't going to be able to stop. At 11 p.m. sharp, I pressed play. The tape clicked, hissed, and then my grandfather's voice.
Good. You made it through the first one. That means you followed the rules. That means you're not like your uncle.
My spine stiffened. Uncle who?
I never told you about him. No one in the family did, because there's no reason to talk about people who don't exist anymore.
The whispering was there again. Faint, layered beneath my grandfather's voice. But this time, it wasn't just noise. It was a name I didn't recognize, being spoken over and over again. I turned up the volume. The whispers grew clearer. Peter. 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 I shuddered. I'd never heard of a Peter in our family.
He was my first grandson. My first mistake. The first time I thought I could ignore the rules. That I could change things.
The tape skipped. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, a sound. A recording of a boy's voice, young, no older than 10.
Grandpa, there's someone in my room.
Click, static. Then my grandfather, his voice calm, detached.
Close your eyes, Peter. Don't say anything. Don't listen.
More static. The boy's voice came back, shaky, scared. He's talking to me. The whispering increased. I couldn't tell if it was from the tape or the room around me. I rubbed my arms, skin crawling. The boy's voice changed, thick, strangled, like someone was holding his throat.
He knows my name.
Then, a sound I will never forget. A wet, choking gasp. The scraping of fingernails against wood. A single, drawn-out scream. Then silence. A long, heavy pause. And then, my grandfather spoke again.
Peter never came back. Not really. His body did. But when he opened his eyes, it wasn't him anymore. We had to deal with it. That's why I'm telling you this, Michael. That's why I made these tapes.
I was shaking, because I knew what he was saying. Peter was erased, like he never existed. The whispering grew louder. It was saying my name now. Michael, Michael, Michael. The tape cut out abruptly. Click. Silence. Then the cassette player spat out tape number 2, and sitting beside it, where there had been nothing before, was tape number 3. I should have stopped. After hearing what happened to Peter, after realizing my grandfather had buried an entire human life like it was nothing, I should have stopped. But I didn't. Because the whispers hadn't gone away. Even with the tape off, even with the house silent, I could still hear them. My name, repeated over and over like a distant chant from behind a locked door. Michael. 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 And now tape number 3 was waiting. At exactly 11 p.m., I pressed play. The tape hissed, crackled, and then my grandfather's voice.
Michael, you need to understand. This didn't start with me. It didn't even start with my father. This goes back generations. This is our family's burden.
The air in the room felt thick. My hands curled into fists.
We weren't just chosen. We were made for this.
The whispering in the background intensified, louder than ever before. And for the first time, I swore I could make out different voices. Some pleading, some laughing, some sobbing. But they all knew my name. I turned up the volume.
You've felt it before, haven't you? The way people avoid you. The way strangers glance at you in passing, then quickly look away. They can sense it. They know.
I gritted my teeth. I had noticed it. My whole life, people had always treated me differently. Not rudely. Not cruelly. Just uneasy. Like they knew something about me that I didn't.
We are the Watchers, Michael. The last barrier between them and the rest of the world. That's why we follow the rules. That's why we do not break them.
The whispering swelled. 100 voices. 1,000. All speaking at once, and then a knock at my door. I froze. Not the front door. The door to my room. It was soft, gentle, but deliberate. My grandfather's voice continued, unfazed.
They know I'm gone now, and they know you're listening.
The knocking came again. I reached for the rule sheet, frantically scanned it, looking for anything about knocking, but there was nothing. I swallowed hard, gripping the arms of my chair.
Michael, this next part is very important. Listen carefully.
The whispering reached a crescendo. The voices pushed against my skull, writhing like worms beneath my skin. Then, my grandfather said something that made my blood turn to ice.
If they knock, that means they've chosen you.
I felt the floor tilt beneath me, a sinking, hollow feeling. The knocking turned to scratching. The handle of my door jiggled. The whispering was no longer just on the tape. It was in the walls. It was in the floor.
If you don't want to end up like Peter, don't let them in.
My throat locked up. I pressed my back against the chair, trying to sink into the darkness.
They want you to open the door. They need you to say the words. But you won't, will you?
The tape glitched. The knocking stopped. The voices stopped. Then, one final message.
Good. Then we still have time.
The tape cut out. Click. The machine ejected the cassette, and sitting next to it, where nothing had been before, was tape number 4. I didn't move for a long time. The cassette player sat in front of me, its open slot waiting for me to play the next tape. I wanted to stop. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to stop. But the knocking had stopped too, and the whispering, like they were waiting too. So at 11 p.m., I reached forward with shaking hands and pressed play. The tape clicked, the static hissed, and then my grandfather's voice.
If you're still listening, then you followed the rules. That's good, Michael. That's very good. But I need you to understand something. These tapes are not just a warning. They are a test.
My breath caught in my throat. A test?
You've probably felt it by now. The way they pull at you. The way they want you to notice them. They are drawn to you, Michael. just like they were drawn to me.
The whispering on the tape rose slightly, not as loud as before, like a group of people standing in another room, waiting.
I recorded these tapes because I needed to know. Would you be strong enough? Would you listen? Would you resist?
I swallowed, my mouth dry.
Because if you don't, if you fail the test, you will be the last of us.
The whispering grew louder, a chorus of voices pressing against my skull. Some pleading, some laughing, some begging me to open the door.
The truth is, Michael, our family is dying.
My heart pounded.
Peter was just the beginning. After him, there were others. Your uncle, your cousin, your father. He refused to listen, and so I had to protect you. But I can't anymore. It's your turn now.
My chest tightened. I had always wondered why my father had never spoken about his side of the family. Why my mother refused to let me visit this house.
If you fail, if you let them in, our bloodline ends. You will be the last Bellamy, and there will be no one left to keep them out. Do you understand?
My hands curled into fists. The whispering pressed closer. The air in the room felt thick, suffocating. And then, a voice spoke. Not from the tape, not from outside the door, but from inside the room with me. Michael. I froze, my lungs locked up. The voice was low, crawling, almost human, but not quite. The whispering stopped. Everything stopped. Then my grandfather spoke one last time.
If they start speaking to you directly, Michael, it means they're already inside.
The tape cut off. I sat there, heart hammering against my ribs. The silence in the room was unnatural. Then, the voice came again. Michael, we've been waiting for you. And from the shadows in the corner of the room, something moved. I didn't move. I couldn't move. The voice had come from inside the room, not the tape, not the hallway. Right behind me, a crawling, oily voice, soaked in something ancient and wrong. Michael, we've been waiting for you. I didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge it, because I remembered the rules. If they start speaking to you directly, it means they're already inside. I reached for tape number 5. My hands shook violently, barely able to shove the cassette into the player. The second it clicked, the whispering in the room stopped, like they were listening too. The tape hissed, crackled, and then my grandfather's voice.
Michael, if you've made it this far, you don't have much time left.
My throat locked up.
They've chosen you, and now you have a decision to make. I know you hear them. I know you feel them. I know you're wondering what they are.
I swallowed hard.
Because yes, I did. I had spent my whole life feeling like something was off. Like I was always being watched. Like my family knew something I didn't. And now, I knew why. They are not ghosts, Michael. They are not demons. They are what came before us. They have always been here, waiting for a way back in. And our family. We have always been the ones keeping them out.
The whispering returned, a deep chorus of overlapping voices, crawling under my skin like fingers scraping against bone. They were angry now, impatient.
For centuries, the Bellamys were chosen to stand between them and this world. We were the ones who kept the doors shut. We followed the rules. We passed the knowledge down. But every generation they try to take one of us.
A pause. Then, a chilling revelation.
And this time, it's you.
I felt my body turn cold.
They want you, Michael. They need you to open the door. They need you to break the rules.
The air in the room shifted. The darkness in the corners deepened. I could feel them, waiting, pushing against reality, trying to force their way in. And I understood. This had never been about me listening to the tapes. It had never been about my grandfather preparing me. It had always been about them. They had been watching, testing me, waiting to see if I would fail. My grandfather's voice came again.
I tried to stop them, Michael. I tried to find another way, but there isn't one. There's only ever been one choice.
The whispering grew frantic. I gritted my teeth. The air felt thin, stretched too tight, like reality itself was unraveling.
If you let them in, if you break the rules, they won't just take you. They'll take everyone, and there will be no one left to hold the door shut.
A sharp knock on the door. Once, twice, 3 times.
Don't let them in, Michael.
The tape stopped. Click. I exhaled shakily, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The whispering was deafening now. The thing behind me shifted closer, and then a new voice joined the chorus, a voice I knew. Michael, open the door. The voice outside the door was wrong. It was my father's voice, but it wasn't him, because my father was dead. And yet, Michael opened the door. A soft, familiar tone, just like I remembered. Just like the way he used to say my name when I was a kid. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. This wasn't real. This was then, trying to trick me, testing me. I gritted my teeth, forcing my breathing to stay steady. And then, a second voice joined in. Michael, honey, please. My mother. My living, breathing mother. The whispering swelled, the shadows pulsing in the corners of the room. The knock on the door came again, louder this time. I pressed my back against the chair, every muscle in my body coiled with tension. Don't let them in, Michael. My grandfather's last words rang in my head, but my mother, my real mother, was outside, wasn't she? I reached for my phone with shaking hands, dialed her number. It rang. Then, a voice picked up. Michael? A pause. I felt my stomach drop, because the voice on the phone was not the same one at the door. The voice on the phone was groggy, half asleep, confused. Michael, why are you calling me this late? Is everything okay? I felt sick. The thing at the door wasn't my mother. It never had been. They knew I was close to breaking. They had gotten inside my head, but I hadn't broken the rules. Not yet, and I wasn't going to. Slowly, carefully, I reached for the cassette player. There was one tape left, tape number 6. I shoved it in, pressed play. The tape crackled, hissed. Then my grandfather's voice came through.
You're at the end now, Michael. This is the last part. If you're hearing this, it means they're desperate.
My eyes flickered to the door. The knocking had stopped. The whispering had stopped. But the pressure in the air was unbearable. It felt like I was sitting at the bottom of the ocean, like something massive was pressing against the walls of reality, waiting for a single crack.
Listen to me very carefully. This is where I failed.
The tape skipped. A deep, shuddering breath.
The first time they came for me, I was your age. My father left me the tapes, just like I left them for you. But I made a mistake, Michael. I tried to talk to them. I thought I could outsmart them. I thought if I just listened, I could understand them.
A long pause. Then, his voice dropped lower.
That's why I had to erase Peter. That's why I had to erase the others. Because once they get inside, you can't get them out. They wear you like a suit, Michael. They mimic you, walk like you, talk like you. And no one knows the difference. Not at first. A sick feeling curled in my stomach. I don't know how much longer I kept my father's voice. Maybe a year, maybe less. But eventually they replaced enough of me that I wasn't me anymore. And I don't know how long I had before your father realized.
My blood turned to ice. I shook my head, denying what I had just heard.
I didn't make these tapes to protect you, Michael. I made them because I knew you'd have to make the same choice your father made. Because I knew one day you'd have to wonder if I was ever really me at all.
I felt nauseous. This was the twist. This was what had been waiting for me at the end of the road. My grandfather had broken the rules, and something had taken him. And my father, the man who never spoke about our family, the man who warned my mother never to bring me here, had figured it out. He had erased him, killed him, or whatever had been wearing him. And now, it was my turn. I stood up. The house around me felt smaller, darker. The door creaked. It was cracking open. I grabbed the last thing on the desk, a lighter. I knew what I had to do. I grabbed the box of tapes, poured out the old whiskey bottle sitting on the shelf, and struck the lighter. The flame roared to life. The whispering returned, now furious, and then, for the first time ever, they screamed, not human, not natural, something wrong and twisted and dying. And as the box of tapes burned, as the house filled with acrid smoke, as the whispers shrieked in agony, the door slammed shut and everything went silent. I left the house before dawn. I didn't look back. By the time the fire department arrived, the entire study was burned beyond recognition. There was nothing left of the tapes, nothing left of my grandfather's voice, and for the first time in my life, I felt alone. No whispering, no voices, no sense of something watching. It was over. At least I thought it was. Until 2 nights later, when I woke up in my apartment, to a knock at the door, software 3 times. I held my breath, didn't move, didn't blink. Then, a whisper. Michael. And from the shadows in the corner of my room, something moved.